Many Americans are unclear as to what this war is all about.
I mean, we can't even get out of Iraq and Afghanistan. Now we're going into Libya. I mean, what's going on?
Let's see, what are they doing? I'm not really sure what they're doing there.
I really haven't the slightest clue. No, everybody's confused about that. Nobody can see how it's strategically oriented towards American interests. I certainly don't know.
I hadn't really been following the news, and a friend of mine, because I thought the president had deployed them over there. So what they're doing is nothing, and that's what I want them not to do, because they need charity starts at home, and I have a problem with them, butting their nose and everything.
I asked former Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney why America is bombing Libya. Here's what she had to say.
If we believe what the president said, we want to save lives. Well, I don't believe the president. I just happened to be in an Israeli prison, kidnapped by the Israelis from a boat that I was on trying to get into Gaza, after the president had said that he wanted the Israelis to open up and allow the certain necessary materials, humanitarian assistance, to get in. And so we took him up on his word, but the president said nothing the entire time, 7 days that I was in prison. So now maybe it's that Palestinian civilians don't count. Maybe that's what it is. But whatever it is, the president has not told us the truth. And I appreciate the words of Minister Farrakhan, who has bluntly put it out there that on this count, Mr. President, you're wrong.
My next question to our experts was, who are the rebels?
It's a heterogeneous movement, meaning it's not just one group of people, but it's clear that the National Transitional Council, as it's widely known, includes disaffected elements from the Gaddafi's military and security units. This immediately became an armed struggle, not simply a protest movement. It went right to guns, it went right to violence, it went right to civil war. So you have the former Interior Minister, the former Justice Minister, high-ranking officials of Gaddafi's government, generals from the army, as well as elements who are, in most part, in terms of their leadership, elites who have been largely trained in the United States and Western Europe. And so there is people from within the political establishment. It's not like Egypt or Tunisia, where you had a spontaneous youth-led movement. Undoubtedly, youth who are unemployed in Libya could be drawn into a movement in opposition. And there are many legitimate grievances by the people. Like I said, it's not homogeneous, it's heterogeneous. But the question is, who are the leaders? Because the leaders determine where that movement's going. And those leaders are clearly those favored by Britain, France, the United States, the former colonial powers in Africa, who are now bombing Libya. They hope that that National Transitional Council becomes the new government in Tripoli, which they believe will make it a proxy or a client government in Libya, which is the largest, has the largest oil reserves in all of Africa. Or, as an alternative, the country will divide, partition, as Sudan has been partitioned, where the oil-rich eastern part of the country will be led by the National Transitional Council, again, a council that the West sees as a friendly government.
That's something that we're still trying to figure out, as we go through this. What we're doing now is more than a no-fly zone. It could be called a no-drive zone as well, that we are saying that, the Libyan forces cannot operate in the area that we're covering. And so that means that implicitly we are providing support to the rebel forces, and it is not entirely clear who they are, how they're organized, or even how best we could support them. So I think that it's a very turbulent situation, and we have to go into this very cautiously.
People are protesting this war all over the globe. America's claims of having world support are false. The following countries have had protests since the first bombs dropped: Australia, Brazil, Chile, England, Greece, Italy, Mali, Nicaragua, Philippines, Russia, Serbia, Sri Lanka, Spain, and Turkey. The Union of Islamic Students Association wrote a letter to President Obama. Here's an excerpt. President Obama, Unlike the past, the world is no longer your playground where you make up rules and force them upon oppressed nations in order to determine their destiny. The nations of the world have vowed and are determined to shape their own destinies by overthrowing and driving out the Western-imposed puppets and dictators. Your government was condemned a long time ago in the court of world public opinion, and what you see today is the results of the deep disgust and hatred for your government's oppressive policies and actions. You can choose to follow the path of your predecessors, or you can choose to accept responsibility for the inhumane actions of the U.S. government and mend what has been broken for so long through immediate compensation and honest and practical action. If there is no fundamental change in your stance, you too will be tried by the court of conscience of the oppressed peoples of the world. That's what people are doing around the world. I asked our experts, what should Americans be doing?
First of all, we've got to inform ourselves. Now, that's really difficult because, thank goodness, we've got Press TV, which is an outlet that allows us to learn the truth. But if you're expecting to learn the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth from Wolf Blitzer at CNN or Mr. O'Reilly at Fox, I'm sorry, but you're just not going to get the whole story. And so the American people have got to learn how to do their own research, to think analytically, to independently research and understand the facts, and then change their electoral behavior to reflect what I believe is the core values of the American people. I don't think the American people want war and the destruction of their economy, the oligarchization of the U.S. economy. I don't think the American people want that. I think when people went to the polls in November of 2008 and they cast a historic vote for the African-American candidate, Barack Obama, they thought that they were voting for what has become the black political consensus. They thought that they were voting for justice, for economic opportunity, and for peace. They thought that that was a moment in U.S. history akin to the passage of the Civil Rights Act, the passage of the Voting Rights Act, the day when the United States looked at itself and said, we must change. That's what not just the American people thought, people all over the globe thought that. Because I saw those faces in Germany when candidate Barack Obama made his speech in Berlin. Well, the black political consensus wanting social and economic justice and peace has been betrayed by the first African to reside at the White House.
The people in the United States have to be in the streets. I mean, this is the third war simultaneously. We have the war and occupation of Iraq, which has not ended. 50,000 U.S. troops are still there. Of course, for the Iraqis, it's a catastrophe. The U.S. has sent 100,000 troops to Afghanistan. Now U.S. aircraft and submarines are bombing Libya. The Obama administration knows well that the American people aren't for this, so they have a new calculation. Let's just do bombing of Libya. Let's make sure that the only bleeding is Libyan blood. Let's make sure that there's not American blood that's being spilled, hoping against hope that this will diminish the outrage by the American people who don't favor the war, who in fact oppose the war, but may not feel personally connected to it if all the casualties are, quote, the other side. So I think that's the calculation, but the bombing campaign is unlikely to oust Gaddafi. Gaddafi clearly has considerable support within Tripoli and elsewhere. Bombing campaigns have the tendency of hardening the resolve of those who are being bombed, and in fact could, if in anything, increase the support that Gaddafi has. That leaves the question, if you bomb and bomb and bomb and Gaddafi's still there, and they've made it quite clear they want Gaddafi to, quote, leave, then won't it require either British or French or U.S. troops to go into Libya? You know, the anthem of the Marines, the U.S. Marines, starts with, "From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli." And the Tripoli was, in fact, and that refers to the first land war that the American government fought after the successful American Revolution in 1776. 1804, the United States invaded Libya, tried to install the monarch of Tripoli, a hand-picked monarch. There's a long tradition of this, and I think the Marines' anthem could come again in terms of a reality. From the shores of Montezuma to the halls of, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, an invasion into Libya. The American people, under those circumstances, I think, will indeed rise up against this.
Under the guise of humanitarian intervention, America has dropped bombs on Libya. Bombs that reportedly contain depleted uranium, which is known to cause birth defects and leukemia. America, a country with high unemployment, home foreclosure crisis, and workers feeling like they are under attack, now must spend precious dollars on another war. A war that may cost as much as $1 billion before it's all said and done. Who is America defending? An unknown group of rebels, as they are called? Will America be successful, or is this another war like Iraq and Afghanistan that just leads to mounting body counts, displaced civilians, and illegal occupation and more? For Press TV in Washington, I'm Nisa Islam.